Chris Scalzo here with
Matt Howell.
And on this episode of The First Run, Matt and I saw Spotlight, the film with Michael Keaton himself, and it's just a slew of your top talent actors, right? Everybody you want to be in a film, mostly, about the breaking of the Boston Globe when they broke the Catholic school molestation scandal. So we'll talk about that this week. Blu-ray and DVD Picks this upcoming Tuesday, December 22nd. Your last chance to pick some stuff up for the holidays. Talk about Slow West. It's currently streaming on Amazon. Michael Fassbender. And it's a different take on the Western. We'll get into that a little bit. And then Matt and I were discussing stuff earlier this week, and we thought, you know what? I wonder how much the films from our childhood still hold up. So what we decided to do is we're going to hash it out here live on the air. We brought a list of movies. Matt, my list of movies, look at this. It's long, all right?
That is long.
So what we're going to do is we're going to come up with 10 films, and then we're going to hash it out between us, and then we're going to check them out and see, do they really still hold up? Or is really just, I don't know. Here's the problem with this. This could go really poorly. Because I could end up damaging my childhood even more. Now, granted, we're going to talk about Star Wars next weekend, and everything you've heard so far, everything seems to be through the roof. Everybody seems to love it. Maybe that'll help salvage, build a cushion for my childhood memories that I guess I could possibly be slowly chipping away at. So we'll talk about that this week as well. So first up, though, let's talk a little bit about Spotlight.
I know there's things you cannot tell me. But I also know there's a story here, and I think everybody will hear about it.
Do you think your paper has the resources to take that on?
I do. Do you?
The Boston priests molested kids in 6 different parishes over the last 30 years. The church found out about it and did nothing. We haven't committed any long-term investigative resources to the case.
No, we haven't.
And that's the kind of thing your team would do.
Spotlight?
Guys, listen. Everybody's going to be interested in this. Obviously, the church will fight us very hard.
I'm trying to get some background information.
I don't want you recording this in any way, shape, or form. Nothing.
We understand you've settled several cases against the church.
I can't discuss that.
There aren't any records of any of these settlements.
Nope.
When you're a poor kid from a poor family, and when a priest pays attention to you, it's a big deal. How do you say no to God?
Matt, if you're not familiar with Spotlight, it's getting rave reviews, considered to be one of the best films of the year. I think definitely, since we have that leeway, right, or for the best picture, you can go from 5 to 10 films. I anticipate this getting a nomination. It has a slow burn. It seems to be picking up more people every week. Great cast. You got Mark Ruffalo, Michael Keaton, Rachel McAdams, Liev Schreiber, John Slattery, Brian Darcy James, Stanley Tucci, Jamie Sheridan, Billy Crudup, Richard Jenkins. I mean, a lot of heavy hitters in this film. And it's all about, as I said, the Boston Globe slowly uncovering the sexual abuse scandal in the Roman Catholic Church in Massachusetts back in the late 90s and the early aughts. So there's a couple things with this film that I sit with. I really felt it was kind of like a good old-fashioned Sidney Lumet-esque drama. You know, like The Verdict and 12 Angry Men. You know, even Before the Devil Knows You're Dead, more recent fare with, of course, the dearly departed P.S. Hoffman. So it definitely has that kind of 70s drama-esque feel to it, you know, and I really did enjoy it. It takes some time to kind of get moving at times, but I found it very rewarding. It's a fantastic ensemble cast, and everybody gets their moment. Nobody's lost in the shuffle in this film. Everybody has their cool little scenes. Michael Keaton does, Ruffalo, Schreiber. Everybody gets their due, which I think was great. It had a couple issues with it. I feel like at times maybe we could have trimmed it up a little bit. Mm-hmm. I think it runs a little long. It's 130 minutes roughly. But granted, it's a big story. I think that takes time and needs time to be told. But still, I feel like even though it was reminiscent of me of those great mid to late 70s dramas, it didn't pop for me. You know, it didn't crackle. I guess, or snap. Right, might as well just go the whole gambit. But that was my issue. I feel like maybe if Aaron Sorkin had come in and punched up the script a little bit, I would have liked it even more than I did. Now, it's strong though, and if you're looking for that kind of good old fashioned drama, I think this film will not let you down. Let's keep in mind now. Let me give you the career of this director. He also co-wrote it, Tom McCarthy. And this is a great run, Matt. The Station Agent. I don't know if you've seen The Station Agent. It's his first film, which I think is fantastic. The Visitor, Up. He helped write Up. Win-Win, the Paul Giamatti wrestling movie. You remember Win-Win?
Yep. Yes,
I really enjoyed that. He was also involved with The Cobbler, that Adam Sandler film that is supposed to, I haven't seen it, but a lot of people are not fans of that movie at all. But still, that's a pretty impressive resume. So, I don't know. I think that's really my thing with it. It's not as good as it could have been. I really feel this film could have really been exciting. Maybe part of it is it's too late.
Right.
It's been a long time. This whole story broke in 2001. So to take 14 years to get to the screen, I don't know if that was. Now, granted, who knows what the issues were, rights issues? Who knows? I don't know. But 14 years to get to the screen seems to me to be kind of a long time.
Right.
So I don't know. It was overdue, like I say, but is it too late? So overall, what would I say? I'd have to say, I think you should definitely see it. Do you need to rush out to the theater to see it? No, I don't think so. But if it pops up on the TV, it's on Netflix, it's on your streaming platform of your choice, I'd say definitely watch it. Just for the performances alone. The story is riveting. There's some great turns. Stanley Tucci is probably one of my favorite characters, and his role is one of my favorites in the film. So, yeah, I would recommend it, but like I said, I don't think you need to rush out to the theater to see it. Even though I do still think it will end up being one of the better films of the year. Man, I'm trying to think about that. What would I put that in my top 10 of the year so far? Which we'll be doing in a couple weeks. Yeah, I don't know. It would be at the end. It would probably definitely be at the end. Probably in the last third. So, I don't know. What do you think? Do you have any questions for me about Spotlight?
Well, no, I don't. I guess, I know you've seen a lot of film over the year, and I was looking at a lot of the year-end lists, and this hasn't really made it into a lot of the year-end lists I've read, and there's a lot of that kind of Oscar baity type stuff that's coming out, like Carol and things like that. So I don't know. How do you think this is going to stack up to kind of like your general art house? Well, I wouldn't say art house, but your kind of more serious Oscar bait fare that you think it's going to get lost in the shuffle somewhere?
Well, I think it'll get nominated because of the cast and how it's a big drama investigating a very serious subject. So I think it'll get a nomination for Best Picture. I'm very confident. If we had to do a what are the odds, I would put it at like a 92, 93% that it would.
Oh, okay.
I don't think it's going to win. I don't think it's got a shot in hell at winning. But I think it'll get a nod. It'll probably get a couple actor nominations as well for this. Possibly Keaton, maybe Ruffalo, maybe a supporting for Tucci, who knows. But it's, but I don't think there's going to be any winners in this. It's going to be one of those where it just probably gets a few noms, but doesn't go anywhere.
And then everybody forgets about it in 6 months.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point. Yeah, I don't think this film has any staying power. It's just not one you're going to come home to and say, oh man, remember that? We got to watch that again. This is not going to be a Shawshank thing, right? Where it comes to life on TBS or TNT, whatever it was, and then runs like 3 times a year every year since. It's not going to have that kind of pull. There's not going to be any real, I don't think, lasting impact for this film. But it's a tight. Well, I shouldn't say tight because it is a little overlong. But it's a good drama, especially some of the crap that's coming out nowadays. You can't. Yeah, it's fine. It's currently 97% on Rotten Tomatoes. I think it's one of the highest films of the year. But it's just I don't know. Those are my thoughts.
All right.
If you've had a chance to see Spotlight, we'd love to hear your thoughts. Shoot us an email at feedback@thefirstrun.com. Matt, Blu-ray and DVD picks. So it's your last chance, December 22nd, if you celebrate Christmas. It's just your last chance to pick up some stuff. I got to tell you, Matt, I'm not impressed. Not a lot coming out this week. The big release is Pan, the Peter Pan reimagining thing that tanked at the box office. So you can pick that up. There's a 3D version and a regular Blu-ray version. Includes a lot of director's commentary and some behind-the-scenes featurettes. Hugh Jackman plays Dr. Hook, right? Is that his Dr. Hook? Hello, Captain Hook. Dr. Hook. He plays
does he? I thought he played
Bluebeard, Blackbeard, whatever it is.
Yeah, he plays the pirate before Captain Hook.
Thank you. It shows you how much I saw the film or was interested in it. But you can pick that up. Maybe everybody's wrong, right? Maybe Pan's going to be the lost film of 2015, though I somehow doubt that. Pawn Sacrifice, the story of Bobby Fischer starring Tobey Maguire, and another film starring Liev Schreiber. He plays Boris Spassky. So it's all about Maguire. Well, I should say Fischer's attempt to win the 1972 World Chess Championship. So I don't know. I gotta admit that didn't really jump out at me either.
Right.
To go to check that out. Maybe if it showed up on Netflix and I had watched almost every other thing that they currently had available, I'd watch it. But
So you'll never watch it?
Probably not. No. What's coming new to Blu-ray? Lucio Fulci's Lizard in a Woman's Skin, one of his first films, a classic film noir. It's not film noir, excuse me. A classic giallo. Italian. You're not familiar with the giallos, but that's the Italian thrillers, kind of hyper-violent. I think it's not quite as gory as his later horror films are, of course, though it does have moments. But if you're not familiar, Carol Hammond, she's a sophisticated politician's daughter, and she experiences a series of crazy psychedelic nightmares dreamt in depraved sex orgies and LSD, which Matt would call a slow Wednesday. Mm-hmm. The dreams turn into a nightmare featuring the death of her neighbor, played by the stunning Anita Strindberg. The next day, Julia is found brutally murdered in her own apartment. It is shocking. I can't begin to tell you, Matt. It is really terrifying stuff. So if you're a fan of this, it also features a score from Ennio Morricone. So if you're a film score guy, you know Morricone. He's one of my favorites. So that's great. It includes a feature-length commentary with Pete Toombs and Chris Gavin, who I'm assuming are important. Documentary on the making of the film. There's the complete version of the film as well as the edited, I think, English version. There's two different versions released. Alternate Italian title sequence, limited edition. Only the first 999 copies come in a red Blu-ray case. So if that matters to you, you can pick it up early. A reversible sleeve that has new artwork, and I guess the original artwork on the inside for the poster. So if you're a fan of Lizard in a Woman's Skin, you can pick that up. In fact, that actually came out on Friday, Matt, December 18th. So I want to tell you so you can pick it up right away, because if you want that red case, you're going to need to. You know, it's funny. I'm a Fulci guy, and I've never seen Lizard in a Woman's Skin because it hasn't really been commercially available that much here. I think it was available on DVD from Anchor Bay for a while. Maybe Synapse. Either way, I never got around to picking it up. So maybe now we'll look into it.
You're going to go treat yourself, a little pre-holiday gift for yourself?
Maybe. I've done enough of that. I got my PS4 all boxed up, ready to take that apart. Another thing, too, they announced, it's not till next year, but have you ever seen the Italian horror film Matt Pieces?
No, I have not.
I think the tagline for it is something to the effect of, it's exactly what you think it is. And
there you go.
It's like, and I think another one was, you don't have to go to Texas for a chainsaw massacre. It's
Nice.
about this killer with a chainsaw, and he cuts up women at a college, and it's good. It's got some great gore effects in it if you're into that kind of thing. So it's when I say good, if you're, I want to qualify that. There's the Italian horror film good as opposed to like a Godfather 2 good. So just keep that in mind. But it's one of the better Italian horror film knockoffs that you're ever going to see. So if you get a chance, check it out. I'll be upgrading to the Blu-ray because it has like two or three different versions of the film on it. Includes soundtrack. I've had the DVD for quite a while, but that new Blu-ray package, we'll talk more about that when it's coming up closer. But I was excited about that. Man, I have a streaming pick of the week for you. If you go on the Netflix, you can check out Best of Enemies. It's a documentary about the debates between William F. Buckley and Gore Vidal that took place in 1968. See, what happened is there was the big three networks back then, right? I think it was CBS. I can't remember which one. But they were really behind in the ratings. So what used to happen is the networks would cover the conventions 24/7. They would just go no matter what was happening. They would cover the conventions the entire time. And we'll just go with CBS. CBS was really struggling, so they decided to do something different. Instead of having 24/7 coverage of the conventions, they had these weekly debates, not weekly, but regular debates between Buckley and Vidal. And basically, I don't know if you want to blame it, but that program was disturbingly high rated, but it's responsible for the introduction of pundit television.
Oh, okay.
It's basically where that started, was the Buckley Gore Vidal debates. And I saw this playing here at the Tampa Theater, and I absolutely loved it. If you're into politics at all, you should definitely check it out. And I feel it's weird because Gore Vidal for the left side, I think he's kind of been forgotten. But it's interesting kind of to see him now kind of back in people's memories and seeing, I don't know, it's just interesting to see him and possibly him get some of the due that he's earned, but he's since been forgotten. The right still kind of talks about William F. Buckley a lot. But so it's good that Vidal got a little bit of the attention as well. And if you're into politics at all, it's definitely worth checking. Even if you're not, if you're kind of curious where it all started, and it's great, it's really well done. There's a lot of high drama in this. So I don't know, I really, really liked it. It may end up in my top 10 for the year. I'm not sure yet, but I really enjoyed it. So you should definitely check it out.
I'll have to check it out.
And then I'll have a straight to DVD pick of the week for you, Matt. You ready?
I'm ready.
It's called Unleashed, a Dog Dancing Story. Subtitle there, Every Dog Has a Tail.
Of course.
But it's A-L-E, not A-I-L. Unleashed, a dog dancing story follows the journey of an amateur dog dancing troupe and an aspiring theater director as they attempt to mount the first ever dog dancing and indoor kite flying theatrical performance. The film captures the challenges the troupe face in their personal lives as well as on the stage. I think one of them is like as a marriage is falling apart. The other one has a son that's gay. The other one's an alcoholic. I'm making all that up. And let's see. And it's as much about the trials and tribulations of producing an amateur theatrical performance as it is about the amazing bond between handler and dog. The group spends over 2 years realizing their first-time director's vision as they write scripts, build sets, raise funds, and rehearse to the point of exhaustion. As tension mounts and hurdles pile on, the resolve of the spirited women and their dogs is constantly tested while the director's patience is pushed to the brink. Unleashed, a dog dancing story, is a captivating look into the lives of those who dance with their dogs. Not for fame, but simply for the love of it. Matt, I got to tell you, I originally thought this was a Christopher Guest mockumentary. And then I thought, well, it's probably a fictional comedy. No, this is a real documentary. And ever since I saw this, I've been trying to wrap my head around why that combination. This is not peanut butter and jelly. This is not chocolate and peanut butter. This is dancing dogs and indoor kite flying. I don't understand how those two things come together. I don't understand the thought process of that. How you can go, what possible logical path of intellectual thought leads you to those two pairings coming together. I can't figure it out in my head. I think I have to watch this film now just to understand it. You know what? I know what's going to happen. There's not going to be a reason. I know there won't be. It'll just be two things that these people are into that they try and mash together. Like me and one of my ex-girlfriends. It doesn't work, but you just keep doing it.
Just keep mashing stuff together and hoping it works out.
That's right. So I don't quite understand it, but that's your straight to DVD pick of the week. You can check out.
That is an odd pick.
Well, we always do kind of weird horror stuff, and something about this I thought was just odd. It was the dog dancing and the indoor kite flying. I just couldn't reconcile it.
Very good. That is very strange.
Maybe the kids at home know. Shoot me an email. Feedback of the first run. Explain to me how indoor kite flying and dog dancing tie in together.
Maybe we're just really out of touch with the cultural zeitgeist. This could be a huge thing, and we just don't know.
That could very well be true. I find that more and more as I get older. That
it's depressing, isn't it?
I have no idea what's going on anymore.
Mm-hmm. It's depressing. Very depressing.
Oh well.
Rose, my love.
Jay, my Romeo.
Once upon a time, Jay Cavendish travelled from the cold shoulder of Scotland to the baking heart of America to find his love. A jackrabbit in a den of wolves.
Arms abroad, boy.
Sir, I'm Jay Cavendish, son of Lady Cavendish.
We're all sons of bitch.
Keep heading west solo. You'll be dead by dawn.
I take care of myself.
Sure, kid. You need chaperoning. Let's drift.
Care not why I'm headed west.
No.
There was an accident. It was all my fault. My girl and her father fled from Scotland.
Nobody knows where we are. Nobody knows who we are.
The bounty hunters.
What do they want?
Blood, money, and $2,000. entices a certain breed of undesirable.
Just what breeds are you?
Oh, well. All right, Matt. So why don't you fill us in? Talk a little bit about Slow West. What's this film about?
Well, that's a good question. What is this film about? But in a nutshell, it is about a young man whose name is Kodi Smit-McPhee, played by Kodi Smit-McPhee. He travels from Scotland to the American continent, and he is traveling west to find a girl that he knew from Scotland, and his true love. And he hooks up with a bounty hunter / killer for protection while he goes across the country and fighting her, and played by Michael Fassbender, and they get into all kinds of scrapes and such.
And also
to experience the worst of humanity along the way.
Basically. Well, not like the road worst of humanity, but pretty bad.
Very true. Not that bad, no.
It also stars Ben Mendelsohn. And if you're not familiar, Ben Mendelsohn is another Australian actor who I am a huge fan of. He's one of those guys, if you see him, you're like, oh yeah, that guy. You know, he was he was one of the guys who ripped off the poker game and Killing Them Softly. He was Daggett in The Dark Knight Rises. He was the CEO trying to buy Wayne Enterprises, just to give you kind of a background. So whenever he pops up, I'm going to be interested in Mendelsohn's work. And he plays another bounty hunter who's also trying to track this kid to track down the woman and her father, the girl and her father, because there's a bounty on their heads. So Fassbender, that's part of it, right? Fassbender's using this kid also, possibly, to take out this family, bring in the father and daughter. Slow West. So should I say no kidding?
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, and what was interesting to me is I'm sitting here watching this, and I was like, man, this is gonna be like some 3-hour like slog fest, and its running time was, I think, less than 90 minutes, which blew my mind, considering how quickly it moved. Yeah, it's one of these movies where it doesn't really have a story. It's just kind of like a series of scenes that kind of tie together. I don't know. I was generally unimpressed, and I don't know. The imagery is good. You know, I'm a big fan of westerns, but I mean, there isn't as much of the kind of wide open spaces of the West that you would expect. Not a lot of violence until the very, very end.
But a great end.
I don't know.
No, I really enjoyed the final, the wrap up there. The classic, not classic. The what's the word I'm looking for? Anyway, it builds up to a nice crescendo for the end of kind of delivering what you hope you're going to be getting throughout the entire film. That I think you really do. I don't know. It's weird because I think the fact that at times I wish they could have tightened up the pace of the film a little bit for me.
Right.
But then, like you said, it's a brisk 82, which I think is a great decision. I think, every now and then we don't need 2-3 hour, masterpiece kind of films, Quentin. Except the difference with Quentin Tarantino is that I don't care, man. If QT throws in a 4 or 5 hour film, I'll be like, all right, let's check it out. So let's
see what we got going on.
Yeah, so I'm totally a hypocrite about that. But I think that it's weird. That's what I think too. I think you're right. I feel like there's just a series of vignettes that are tied together. There is an overall, I guess, arc of the film in regards to really just how much love is going to burn your ass in the end, maybe, especially unrequited love.
Right.
So at times I felt it was a little heartbreaking for me for Smit-McPhee. It really was. I felt, kind of this, you get kind of lovelorn, you get this idea in your head, and you're willing to traverse the ocean to help, to be with this person who possibly wants nothing to do with you.
Right.
And things just go horribly worse from there. So it's, I don't know. And one of the things, too, I struggle with is Fassbender does not deserve the ending that his character gets. I really don't think he does. I think he's not really a good guy. He's not a bad. I guess he's an anti-hero with this film, right? I mean, he's not really a good guy. I guess,
but he doesn't really do much of anything, really. I mean,
that's true.
He doesn't really do anything. He kills one guy at the beginning, and that's basically it. That's basically all he does. Otherwise, he just walks around and looks like a badass and gives out badass life lessons. That's basically it.
Yeah, I really think it turns. I don't want to quite say turns the Western on its head, but it definitely plays with the traditional Western themes. It's not your typical Western at all. Just like you said, there's no big wide open shots. There's none of that kind of thing. So all the stuff you're used to seeing, like in a John Huston Western or something. You're not going to get any of that here. So it almost felt at times like a stage play, but outside, you know, in the woods.
Right. Well, yeah, and it had a very kind of like everything, like, and one of the things that kind of turned me off, and I think I really didn't notice it until the very end there, was just the kind of grasping for metaphors of, like, you know, the American, history and what everything is today. Like his little conversation with the weird German out in the on the open plains, and and can I tell you? I mean, I know it's a tiny little thing, but the part where his love, the woman that he loves gets a kiss on the cheek from that woman or from that guy, and then like 2 seconds later, a bullet comes in and it shatters the shaker of salt and it falls on his wound. The salt. I was like, come on, dude. That is some hand-fisted visual metaphor right there.
Mm-hmm. That's
terrible.
True. Well, yeah. I don't know. I thought it was all right. I guess I didn't dislike it as much as you did, but I don't. I would. Yeah, it's fine. It's fine.
I didn't hate it. I mean, it was just kind of like, oh, okay, it's all right, I guess.
I think there's some interesting ideas in this. I think it's a first-time director too, so I'll give you some praise for that. But I feel like, I don't know. I needed a little bit more. I needed a little bit more. So
I agree.
I don't know. If you had a chance to see Slow West, shoot us an email at feedback@thefirstrun.com. Clearly, or I should say currently, streaming free on Amazon Prime if you are a Prime member. And you can check it out. Other streaming service, DVD, Blu-ray, you can check it out that way.
All right.
Matt, best of the 80s is what I've kind of talked about this. I got to figure out a better title for this part, what we're going to do.
Well, I don't think it's really the best of the 80s, right? I don't think that's really what the goal here was. I thought, so this really came out of a conversation that you and I had around films that we liked when we were kids, as the old men of the 80s that we are. And that we haven't seen in a really long time. So do they really hold up? So I mean, if you said best of the 80s, I mean, you'd probably start throwing stuff on there like Ghostbusters and Goonies if you're talking about kids movies. But everybody's seen those 1,000 times, so we're not really talking about those films, right?
Right, exactly. You're right. That's exactly right. This is more about the films that we remember fondly from our childhood that we haven't seen in a very long time. So we're going to revisit them, and I just have to come up with a really kind of short name for the show, and I have no idea what that's going to be. Anyway,
it'll come to you eventually.
Yeah. Right? So why don't you start it off? So we're going to run down. We're going to go 10, and then we'll talk about honorable mentions too, because as you saw on my list, there's a lot.
Yeah.
So what do you got? Give me a movie, and then we're going to have to figure. I'll write it down. We'll have to figure out what our final grouping is going to be. So go ahead.
All right. My first one's going to be Willow, which is the Lucas penned. He didn't direct, but he produced it. It's a Lucasfilm kind of a high fantasy. His take on kind of a hobbity kind of adventure. Stars Val Kilmer and Warwick Davis.
I have never seen Willow.
Okay.
So yeah, it's directed by Ron Howard. I was right. Okay. So I have no problem. I think we'll definitely include that, since I don't know if we should, because I haven't seen it.
Right.
But I haven't seen it, so I don't. I see. That's the thing. If I haven't seen it, can we include it? Because that defeats the whole purpose of this.
Well, let's see. Let's go through the list and see how far we got here.
All right. So my number 10, I had. And I'm going to confess, I don't remember it being that good when I saw it. I just have vague memories of it, so I would like to revisit it, and that's Supergirl. Okay. And also timely because of the new TV show, which is okay. I don't know if you've seen it yet, but it's all right.
Yeah, it's okay. It's no Flash.
So, no. Oh, heavens, no. But Helen Slater, who does play Supergirl's adopted mother in the new show, by the way, if you haven't seen it. But it's got Peter O'Toole as well. And it's, I remember, and Faye Dunaway, I remember Peter O'Toole being really bad in it, I think. But it's got currently a 7% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Wow.
So, but there was something about it. I don't know if it's because of the new show and all the comic book stuff. I don't know, but that was my 10. So, go ahead. What do you got?
Okay. My number 9 is the Monster Squad. This is I haven't seen this in a really long time, but it's basically about a group of kids who fight kind of the classic universal monsters. You know, Frankenstein, the Wolfman. Has a very 80s sensibility from what I can remember, just from some of the lines I can remember. But I remember being when I was a kid, it was about monsters, but it wasn't super scary. So as a young kid, it was something that appealed to me. So I don't know. I have a pretty good bet that doesn't hold up, but I'd be curious to see it again.
I bought that on DVD when it was released years ago. I never watched it though. I never got around to checking it out again. I remember loving that film when I was a kid though. So
Yeah.
that's a strong contender. Didn't actually make my list because I was going back and forth on it. Cause I think I'd started to watch a little bit of it a few years ago. Anyway,
Right.
It didn't make the cut for me. My number 9 then is, and I think we have to do this one, but
Okay.
we'll get there. Is Masters of the Universe, the canon film,
Okay.
the He-Man movie. Yeah, it's I don't know. I remember as a kid going to see it at the Cinema 1234 in New Haven. This little, you know what's funny? If it's, the theater's still there, and they're cash only, and they give you the ticket. The tickets like the carnival tickets. I mean, it's like that old, and they're still rocking it there. So.
Wow.
But when I went to see He-Man there, or Masters of the Universe, I should say, they actually had people dressed up as He-Man and She-Ra there signing little comic books that they were giving away as part of the screening. So it was a big good night for me. I really enjoyed it. So there you go. What's next for you?
Number 8. This was a little film that we caught at somebody's birthday party. When I was surprised at how funny I thought it is Better Off Dead, one of John Cusack's first roles, I believe. Kind of the silly kind of 80s things, like I think the cliche about the ski race to win the heart of the girl, that came from this movie, I believe, or at least it really contributed to that entire cliche.
Yeah, I actually didn't make my cut, but I had a John Cusack trifecta of Say Anything, Better Off Dead, and One Crazy Summer in my honorable mentions. So interesting. My number 8 is Dragnet with Dan Aykroyd and Tom Hanks.
Oh yes,
I
remember watching that, and I did not like that movie.
No, I thought it was hilarious. I bought the soundtrack on audio cassette. I liked it so much. One of my favorite things about that film too is there's a scene in that movie. This is going to be embarrassing. There's a scene in that film where Tom Hanks' character, Pep Strebeck, I still remember this, he's talking to Joe Friday, Dan Aykroyd, and there's a scene where Hanks does the masturbation motion with his hand.
Right.
And I was so young, I didn't know what that was, so I thought it was him rolling dice.
Very nice.
So there you go. That's how innocent I was as a child. I'm not quite sure what happened, but that's my 8 is Dragnet.
All right. My number 7 is the vehicle that introduced the world at large to a man I like to call Keanu Reeves, which is Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. Again, from what I can remember, I haven't seen it in a really, really long time, but I kind of liked. I remember it was just a funny film about two idiots going through time and bringing back historical figures. Time paradoxes be damned. I think it was. I remember really liking it when I was a kid.
Yeah, I agree. Actually, it was my number 10 at one point, but I got slotted out for Supergirl, which I think is a horrible decision on my part.
That is a terrible decision.
So that's a good one. I think that's a strong contender. What about my number 7, Footloose?
Footloose. Now, I have a confession to make. I have never actually seen Footloose.
Okay, so I'll star that because you haven't seen it. Wow. You should probably just check it out on principle.
Yeah, I should. I know.
All right, well, that's too bad. I remember loving Footloose at the time. Great soundtrack. Great 80s soundtrack on Footloose, too.
Yeah.
So, all right.
Well, I mean, there's nothing to say we can't do it. I mean, I think it could be interesting to see if it holds up as well for you, but if I actually think it's good as going at it completely blind.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. All right, what was that? What are we on? Number 6. All right, so this is the one that introduced the world to Tim Burton. So Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
Yeah.
I haven't seen this one in a really long time either. I remember, the thing that actually stood out for me, of course, the whole thing is just a lot of, jokes and kind of slapsticky kid type stuff. But the out of nowhere scene in the middle with the ghost trucker, that
Large
really,
Marge.
Large Marge really stuck with me as a kid. That was probably one of my favorite parts of the movie.
Here's the thing about that film. It's on my honorable mentions, but I can't think we can include it because it's a cult classic. Everybody loves Pee-wee's Big Adventure. I think that's too much of a layup. I really do. But we'll talk about it. We can talk about it. Number 6 for me is the Disney film, one of the first horror films I ever saw, and I just have this vision in my head that I absolutely loved, that it was fantastic, but I'm terrified it really isn't, and that's Something Wicked This Way Comes. You ever seen that?
No, I haven't.
So
I read the book, though.
Okay, so Jonathan Pryce plays a magician or a carnival operator, whatever it is, that comes to town, but he's really the devil. And these two kids figure out who he is, and it's people are selling their souls to get healed or do this thing. I don't know. I just remember seeing it as a kid, and I absolutely loved it. And I've been wanting to catch up with it again for a while now. So that was my number 6. So what's your 5?
Right. My number 5 is, now this one I watched quite a bit. This was Jim Henson's The Dark Crystal. Kind of a strange high fantasy. Obviously before computer effects, everything had to be practical, so it was kind of like this big puppet film. I remember it being very odd, and I'd be kind of curious to see how I react to a lot of the strangeness of it, and see if it really makes any sense and if it actually holds up as far as the effects go, which is probably a no, but
interesting. Yeah, I remember. I was scared by it as a kid because as a Henson film too, it was pretty scary for kids back then.
Yeah.
I know my sister was terrified of it, and that's why we could never watch it again. My number 5 is Young Sherlock Holmes.
Okay.
It's just Sherlock and Watson back in, not primary school, I don't know, whatever the English equivalent is of like high school or something. It's when they first meet, and then they battle against, I think it's Moriarty. Oh, no, they set up Moriarty, I think, for a sequel that never happened. But
Okay.
I remember really loving Young Sherlock Holmes, so that's my number 5.
Okay. I've never seen that. Never seen that either.
Okay.
I'm amazed that right now we have absolutely no overlap.
That's true. That is interesting.
So now my number 4 was one that I wore out. Watched this a lot when I was really young, which was Clash of the Titans, the classic of Ray Harryhausen. I think the nadir of stop motion special effects with clay, and it brought the world, of course, the completely overused line, but one that you can never escape from: release the Kraken.
Again, not on my list. This is weird. So yeah, that's fine. I think I saw it like 10 years ago or something. It was on TV, and I watched like half of it. I'm like, man, this sucks.
It doesn't hold up with the Clockwork Owl anymore.
No, well, I gotta admit, the Harryhausen stop motion animation stuff it's charming now. So I don't. It's not bad special effects. Like let me give you an example. I've been watching the prequel films in anticipation of the new Star Wars movies, as well as the new ones. I've been watching them out of order. I don't know.
Right.
Anyway, so the special effects in those are bad. In the prequels, I don't know if it's because I don't have Blu-ray. I have the original DVDs when they were released. But you can tell that they're computer generated. You can tell, like that scene when Han Solo steps on Jabba the Hutt in
Right.
I'm sorry. Now I'm talking about the New Hope. Excuse me.
Right.
But even then, I guess that special effect is horrible too. But the prequel ones, and I've watched the first 2. I got to check out the third one at some point, and I got to check out Empire and Jedi this weekend before Tuesday when I'm going to see Star Wars. My point being that the stop motion animation stuff is now charming, but bad computer animation is just bad computer animation. Okay,
This is true.
my number. Did I tell my number 4 yet? I don't think I did. All right, it's Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Okay.
I really loved that film when I was a kid when it came out. I think it's right at the end of my childhood, if I remember correctly. So, yeah, I don't know, something. I've been meaning kind of. I had to go through these things where I'll want to revisit it, but I never get around to it. So this might be a good opportunity to check that out. 1988. So yeah, I would have been 13. So yeah, it would have been right at the end of that kind of a thing. So all right.
Well, I'm reaching back into the bank here. So this one, my number 3 is UHF, which is the Weird Al penned. Did he write this? I know he definitely starred in it, but basically about very good. Story about a guy who starts a UHF broadcast station. For the kids who don't know what that is, there was really it's kind of like UHF was a band as opposed to VHF, and it was kind of like the public access shows, and basically he creates a network that suddenly takes over, his area, and it's the top rated thing, and he has all kinds of crazy shows. So it's kind of like an opportunity for a lot of segues and cutaways and kind of non sequitur type humor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, teaching poodles how to fly, taking a drink from the fire hose. Yeah, he didn't direct it. He co-wrote it with the director, Jay Levy. So UHF is tough. I feel that's another issue, too. I feel like that's another cult, like Pee-wee's Big Adventure thing, where people still love it. Almost maybe like a Spaceballs thing, where people love it incorrectly because it's not that good a film. But we'll see. Maybe it'll make the list. It's interesting. My number 3, I feel, is one that I absolutely have to have on there, and that's Cloak and Dagger.
Okay.
I loved Cloak and Dagger as a kid. And I was, too, Dabney Coleman, he's still out there, right? He's been retired for a while now, but I always liked Dabney Coleman. So if you're not familiar with Dabney Coleman, I'm serious, with Cloak and Dagger. A young kid basically thinks he's a spy, and he has an imaginary friend who actually, goes on all these adventures, and he actually gets sucked into this big Cloak and Dagger type scenario. So I remember loving that film as a kid. So I'd love to see it again and see if it holds up, which I'm sure it doesn't.
Yeah, I'm sure it's because I think I may have even seen that once. And isn't the whole conceit it's based off of like an Atari cartridge? Isn't that the whole thing? Like it's got some secret plans in it.
Oh, maybe. Oh, yeah, that could be. I remember he had the little toy that he ran around with. But that could be that everything's hidden in the cartridge.
That had like some secret nuclear launch codes or something. Of course, I mean, it had to be nuclear launch codes if it was the 80s, right?
Yeah. Yes. That's right. It was Henry Thomas was the kid from E.T. I forgot all about that. That was Henry Thomas. All right, go ahead.
That's a pull from the past. All right. So my number 2, this one, my next 2, they're kind of not kiddie, but I threw them on there anyway because I still remember watching them more when I was, 8, 9, 10 years old. The second one was Weird Science, which is about 2 guys who kind of create a Frankenstein woman who happens to be Kelly LeBrock. And, it's obviously kind of that 80s cheesy sex comedy, but not really, but really kind of PG sex comedy thing. And it would be kind of interesting if modern sensibilities, how they view this thing that they create.
Yeah. It's, yeah. I don't know if I've ever seen Weird Science in its entirety. I feel like it's one of those things where I've seen most of it at different times. Interesting. Okay. My number 2 is another film, obviously, that I loved, Romancing the Stone, with Michael Douglas and Kathleen Turner. I didn't put Jewel of the Nile on there, all right? Cut me some slack. And Danny DeVito's in it as well. But Romancing the Stone was a big film in the 80s. And I think it was a little adult for me as well, so I think that's why I was impressed. I liked it so much.
Yeah, but I remember getting that from the library when I was probably too young to watch it as well. Didn't really impact for me, I didn't get the love that you did.
Come on, it's Robert Zemeckis too. Everybody loves some Zemeckis.
Some Zemeckis. Well, let's be honest, Chris. You're a little bit older than me, but at that time when we were probably watching this movies, the gulf was probably, and sophistication was probably pretty large.
That's a fair point. Okay.
All right. So my number 1, this was one of I had a long list of like kind of dirty movies that we would sneak, like people had them at their house and we would watch them, and we were
like dirty movies.
Not like dirty, but like and we'll get into it when we get into the honorable mentions, but things that obviously some a kid shouldn't really be watching.
Mm-hmm.
But I put this one on there just because I was kind of struggling for number 1, and I have to say that all this stuff is in no particular order. But it's number 1 is Coming to America with Eddie Murphy.
Mm-hmm.
The kind of showcase of a lot of the things that would show up throughout Eddie Murphy's career, playing multiple crazy characters in the barbershop, just kind of definitely a funny 80s movie.
Yeah. I think that was at the tail end for me because of my advanced age. 1988. I was 14 by then, so I'd definitely become more sophisticated at that point,
All right.
Or 13. I was 13, sorry. Not much. But adult situations, language, and nudity. That's a big thing for me.
So I would have been like 9.
Yeah, see. Whatever. Fine. My number 1 then. Okay. I remember loving this film as a kid. One of my favorites. I have not seen it in, how old am I now? 28? I have not seen it in probably 20 years.
All right.
And does that math work? I'm not even sure that math works for how old the film is. But no, yeah, it is. And this is going to be funny because it's embarrassing. You know how big a fan of this musician I am. So my number one is Labyrinth. Okay. I've had it on DVD and Blu-ray for probably now combined 10 years. I've never watched it again. It's been on Netflix for years. I have never watched it since I saw it in the theaters as a kid. But I remember being blown away by Labyrinth, and I would love to see it again. I've tried to get Jen to watch it with me a couple times too, but she thinks it's my Bowie fetish, so she won't watch it. She's afraid what's going to happen. So that's my number one is Labyrinth.
All right. Yeah, see, Labyrinth and Legend were two films that were trying to me, I vaguely remember seeing them, but not being particularly impressed with either one of them. But I mean, honestly, it's been so long, and I watched it so few times that I can literally remember almost nothing about either of those movies.
Mm-hmm. And you were much younger than me, because 1986 is when it came out, right? So I was 11.
Yeah, so I was probably about 6-7 years old.
So So, all right. Well, let's hash it out then. Let's get to work here.
Well, here's the weird thing. We didn't have a single one.
I know.
That was on the same list.
I did not anticipate that.
I feel, can we quickly run through our honorable mentions? Because I would just kind of like to hear, because honestly, my list, I'm not married to any of it insofar as I could even pick something off my honorable mentions if we have the same
I agree.
kind of thing.
I agree. All right, so I'll start off with that. War Games.
That was in my honorable mentions.
Okay, so maybe we can go with that. I'll write that down, War Games. This is ridiculous to even have this on here, but I haven't seen it since it was in the theaters probably. E.T.
Okay.
The Breakfast Club, I haven't seen in 20 or 30 years. I had my trifecta of Say Anything, Better Off Dead, One Crazy Summer. So I think Better Off Dead, I think we can lock that in. I don't have a problem putting that in at all.
Okay.
Heathers, Night of the Comet.
Okay, yep.
Fright Night.
Yep.
Popeye.
Ooh, yeah. Wow.
Dark Crystal. Short Circuit.
Yeah.
Three Amigos.
Okay.
Flashdance.
Yeah.
Teen Wolf.
Okay.
Weird Science.
Okay.
Real Genius.
Okay.
Spies Like Us.
Yep.
The Burbs, right at the tail end of my youth. Christine, the John Carpenter, Stephen King one. The Explorers, the Disney film.
I had the Explorers on my list as well.
All right. I had Pee-wee's Big Adventure, but like I said, it's a cult classic. Just like the reason we can't do E.T. I just don't think it makes sense to do it. Right. Against All Odds, the remake of Out of the Past. I had UHF on here as well. I had, of course, another Bowie film, The Hunger. And then I had Bill and Ted.
Right. Okay. All right. So I had Flight of the Navigator.
I forgot about that. Okay. Yep. All right.
I had The Last Starfighter.
Yep. Never seen it, so.
Yeah. The Neverending Story.
I hate that film.
Adventures in Babysitting.
Haven't seen it.
Uncle Buck.
No.
The Last Unicorn. The Golden Child.
No.
The Great Outdoors.
No, that film sucks. It sucked when I saw it.
Honestly, but I mean, I haven't seen it. I literally haven't seen it since I was 7 years old.
No, that's
so I have no
horrible.
Idea. Clue.
Mm-hmm.
And then what I was referring to is probably movies I shouldn't have watched was Revenge of the Nerds.
Yeah.
And Bachelor Party.
That's a good one. There you go. I love me some primetime Tom Hanks comedies. All right, neither of us had Splash on there.
Oh yeah, I forgot about Splash.
I just wrote that down. All right. I don't think Night of the Comet should go because it's a cult horror film as well.
Right.
Anything that kind of has that reputation of being loved now.
Yeah.
Maybe.
You know what else I want to throw on there? I couldn't think of it at the time. I want to throw on there No Holds Barred.
Ooh. Is that the Hulk Hogan movie?
Yes.
Fine. Yes. If you're doing that, I'm putting Over the Top on here then.
I Over the Top was on there pretty was on the consideration as well.
Oh, Sly. All right. Wow. So we didn't have. Well, actually, no. What Rocky IV doesn't even. Everybody knows it's cheese and awesome at the same time. So there's no point in doing Rocky IV.
That's very true.
Wow.
All right. So what do we have for sure right now? We have for sure Better Off Dead.
Yeah. War Games, I guess.
War Games. Let's see.
Writing here. All right.
Yeah,
so.
No. We'll do Labyrinth because you seem to be like you really want to do it. So let's do Labyrinth.
Let's do, and I think we should both do one film that neither of us have seen. That like you haven't seen it, but I have. I haven't seen it. You did. So
all right. Well, I want to do Willow. Then.
That's
I really
that's
want to
right.
do Willow.
That's what I was gonna say. I think we should do Willow. What was the one that I hadn't seen that you wanted to do? I don't remember.
I think it was Willow, wasn't it? Willow.
Okay, yeah. So what's yours then that you haven't seen that I wanted to do?
Haven't seen
that I wanted.
Oh,
was it Footloose?
Yeah, I've never seen Footloose.
Or Young Sherlock Holmes, or Something Wicked This Way Comes.
I guess I'm gonna have to do Footloose just because I feel like I'm just gonna have to pull the Band-Aid off and just do this, right?
Okay. So we have Better Off Dead, War Games, Willow, Footloose. You know, let's just take out Supergirl. I don't know what the hell I'm talking about.
Labyrinth.
Yeah, we want Labyrinth. Okay.
Well, you seem like you really want to do it. So
I do.
And I haven't seen it. Like I said, I haven't seen it in so long. I can't even remember what it's about. So.
What about He-Man? Are we going to do He-Man?
Yes, because that's really what kicked it off. That was the one that kicked it off. This entire list.
That's 6.
All right, so we got to come up with 4 more. All right, so we said UHF was out.
Yeah, it's a cult classic at this point.
We said Pee-wee's Big Adventure was out.
Has to be cult classic. Bill and Ted's a cult classic, I think too. But I don't know.
Right.
I could see doing Bill and. I don't know. Let's pocket that for now. Maybe Monster Squad.
Yeah, we could do Monster Squad.
All right, we'll do Monster Squad.
You said that you loved it when you were a kid. So.
I did. I watched it a bunch of times on VHS.
Okay.
What about any of my honorable mentions? We didn't talk about Short Circuit, Three Amigos, Teen Wolf, Weird Science. We did, like you had Weird Science, Real Genius, Spies Like Us.
Out of those, I would say maybe Spies Like Us, because again, I haven't seen that in a really long time, but I remember thinking it was really funny.
That's a good one. Yeah. All right, let's do that one then too. I think it's a good pick. I loved it as a kid too. I bet you it's horrible. That's 8. 2 to go.
All right. What about Flight of the Navigator?
You know,
I can't even find it.
That's a good point. We should pick a couple backups because some of these may not be available.
Right.
So I remember liking Flight of the Navigator when I was a kid, and I haven't seen it since I was a kid. So I think it's a good call. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right, one more.
All right.
So no Cloak and Dagger, no Romancing the Stone, Roger Rabbit, Young Sherlock Holmes, Something Wicked This Way Comes.
Roger Rabbit, I recently saw.
Okay, so we'll take that out.
I did recently watch it. And for the record, it did still hold up in my opinion.
Okay.
I really didn't like Romancing the Stone when I saw it, so I'm going to put that one out as well.
Okay. Dark Crystal.
Sorry. We could do Dark Crystal. What was the other ones you just said? Sorry.
I said Something Wicked This Way Comes, Young Sherlock Holmes. I still have Dragnet on my list. Cloak and Dagger.
You pick. Doesn't matter. You pick.
Okay. And you had. Do we have? Man, that's tough. I'm leaning towards. You know what? No, we're not 80s enough, I think, for some of these. We need another 80s classic. So I say we do Weird Science.
Okay.
I feel like that's one of those where I feel like it's an 80s classic, but it might be unrightfully so. And like I said, I've never seen the whole film together. I've seen it like patchwork.
Right.
So I think that'd be worth revisiting.
Okay.
All right. So let's pick 2 backups just in case things go horribly wrong and the films are not available.
Okay. Well, that would help to know what is available, wouldn't it?
Yeah, that's good because the backups could not be available too. Well, we know there's some we know are. Like we know,
right.
How about this? How about we just choose the backups as I say, Bill and Ted and Dark Crystal.
Okay, yeah, that works for me.
All right. Now, we'll finalize the order of this off the air. We don't have to do that here. But here's the list, all right? So, again, in no particular order, Better Off Dead, War Games, Willow, Footloose, Labyrinth, Masters of the Universe, Monster Squad, Spies Like Us, Flight of the Navigator, Weird Science, and then our backups, which I know are available, are Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure and The Dark Crystal.
All right.
I'm
looking forward to this. I'm really looking forward to this.
So we'll do that once a week. We'll work that in. Next week, obviously, we're going to do Star Wars. The Force wakes up, whatever it is. I don't know. I don't really care about this stuff at all. I've always been more of a Star Trek guy. So I love the people who are going to the Star Trek premieres, Star Wars premieres, and Star Trek Get Up. I think there's a few people online have been doing that, which I think is great. How you been doing with avoiding spoilers? I've done a reasonably good job so far.
I've done a really good job for the most part, although I was just clicking through my Facebook feed and something like one of those like suggested news articles popped up, and it literally like the headline was a spoiler, and it kind of pissed me off.
What an ass!
It wasn't huge, but oh well.
That sucks. I hate people. And I had dinner last night with a bunch of my significant other Jen. Her work people had a nice little holiday dinner last night. Fantastic food. Shula's. I'd never eaten at a Shula's before, the steakhouse.
Okay.
It was really good. But anyway, one of the attendees had seen Force Awakens. He went to like at a 10 o'clock show on Thursday night. Yeah. And I talked to him about our theory about who Kylo Ren and the woman's characters are, that they're the kids of Han Solo and Leia.
Yeah.
All conjecture on our part. And he would say, he wouldn't confirm or deny, which I appreciate. He would say just whatever everybody thinks is happening, you have no idea what's going on. So don't, don't just go in fresh, and you're gonna absolutely love it. So,
well, I hope so. I got my tickets 2:00 tomorrow.
Nice. Mm-hmm. And if I haven't seen it too, just let everybody know. I'm very excited to be able to talk about this. Christmas Day, I have tickets to the 70mm roadshow screening of The Hateful Eight.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be a nightmare, Matt. It's Christmas Day. My screening's not till 10:30 at night because I have to do. We have to do the familial obligation thing. It is Christmas.
Right.
I can't get out of that.
Right.
Thanks a lot, baby Jesus. Thanks a lot, Obama. So, but still, I am going to see this. Basically, it's going to be a 3-hour experience for me.
And you're gonna love every second of it. Don't lie.
8 minutes longer. What is it? At the beginning, the music thing in the beginning. I'm blanking right now. We've been talking for so long. So, but that, and then there's an intermission. Did you hear too about Morricone? Morricone did the score for this. Tarantino's been wanting to work with him for years, and it never seemed to work out. He's always been borrowing Morricone's work from other previous films that he scored. So we have some new Morricone work in this film, but one of the coolest things I'm excited about is supposedly there's unused music from the Thing score in this film. And I got The Thing is one of my favorite scores of all time. So I'm curious to hear what that sounds like. Anyway, shoot us an email. Feedback at the first run. I think the English term is feedback at the first run. Did we leave any films off? Do you think there's some we definitely need to do for our childhood remembrance thing? I got to come up with a name. So shoot us an email, feedback@thefirstrun.com. We're going to take an extended break. But first, let me tell you, check us out on Facebook, on the website, thefirstrun.com, Twitter, Instagram, all the other fun stuff you'll find. Just do a search for The First Run. So as I said, we'll take an extended break. And Matt, we have to see about getting somehow get together at some point in the middle of next week. That way, with the holidays, and I'll be seeing Star Wars Tuesday.
Okay.
So, in fact, I'll be seeing it during the day. So we can almost maybe even do it Tuesday night or when. Well, we'll get together. We'll figure out the scheduling. So that's it. That's the big show for this week. Thanks, everybody, for listening and or watching, and we'll see you in a week.
See you.
I was here for a second this morning.
You didn't straighten up the place, did you?
No.
Good, because all my filth is in alphabetical order. This, for example, was under H for toy.